right, I'm going live. Okay, so Wendy's going to join me here in just a sec, but until then, I think I might respond to some comments. So I came across a documentary of sorts. It's like an hour-long thing of the history of veganism, and it's pretty wild. I would love to hear thoughts that people have on it. It was made by Veg Source, and let's see, it's 45 minutes, and basically it goes over the history of Donald Watson and Leslie Cross and all that business going down, and it talks about how it does this whole wild thing where it talks about how like vegetarianism over the years has, at least with its associations, have had like a focus on harm to animals, not just the dislike of eating meat. A lot of people view vegetarians as people that they don't really have like a moral side of it. They just don't want to eat meat, where vegans have the moral side of it. And I guess even though when vegetarianism started, a lot of people weren't wanting to cut out dairy and eggs. Like maybe it was a thing they hadn't thought about. They did care about the animals themselves, not just the grossness of eating meat. So there's a bunch of things where you can look back through to like the mid 1800s, and it would be like things against leather and various different things that involved the killing of the animals. So it was just a thing where it took a while to get into figuring out the eggs and the dairy side of it. But anyways, this documentary is very fascinating, and it was a big focus of it. The only part that wasn't about the history was talking about how many vegans negatively affect the movement now. And there's one case where there was a very famous YouTuber that went vegan and announced they were vegan, and a bunch of militant vegans went on there and attacked her, saying like, "Oh, I know you use this kind of makeup, so you're not vegan." And she was sharing with her entire audience that the idea of veganism and how good veganism is, and that she's vegan now. But because of these people attacking her, she's like, "Okay, I won't call myself vegan anymore." And so this idea of this thing that was like going to be beneficial for the movement just got attacked and made somebody not call themselves vegan anymore. So because of wanting to be militant and attacking somebody not in a productive way about like some makeup they were wearing, now more animals are going to be harmed and the movement's pushed back. So it's just something that a lot of people don't think about. But another angle of it that I think is important to think about is that social media, like the internet, people typing comments, um, in a sense, I think when there's extreme comments, it's worth looking at that as like not real people, because like you can't view every troll. If somebody is pretending to be vegan and isn't vegan but going and saying outrageous vegan things, I don't know if it's good to look at that as like part of the vegan movement and saying these vegans are acting this way. I mean, that is how I responded to the comments to Alex O'Connor. But part of that is that some of those are real and some of those are not. So it's worth pointing out, like, if you're a vegan and you're attacking this person, please stop. But just because somebody is doing something claiming to be vegan, it doesn't mean they are. And so, anyways, this documentary was really cool, and it covered the history. And I used to be under the impression that Donald Watson invented the name, and then Leslie Cross came in and invented the definition. But it seems that it's a bit different than that. Anyways, it's worth checking out, and that's in my community section, so go ahead and check that out. I think Wendy is here. Let me close out of this. Okay. Oh, Daniel's watching. Hey, Daniel. Okay. There's Wendy. Hey, how you doing?
Hello, hi.
It's been a
Good to
long
see you.
time.
I know, I know. I mean, a long time in like YouTube years, I guess.
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it feels weird because most people that know each other see each other in real life all the time. So when it's YouTube years, it feels even wilder because I don't see you in real life. So yeah.
True.
But yeah, did you get the promotion? Were
Oh,
you going for a
yes, yes,
promotion at work?
yes. Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah, I got it yesterday.
Oh,
Hmm.
awesome. Cool.
Yeah. It's
Cool,
gonna
cool, cool.
be yeah, it's gonna be a lot more money, so I'm really happy about it.
Awesome. Yeah, money is
Um,
good. Money is good. Okay,
oh
so
yeah.
you do. Yeah, let's jump right into it. You had a hypothetical for me, or maybe multiple hypotheticals.
Yeah, okay. So if you've talked about this already recently, I apologize. I haven't seen a lot of your recent stuff, but
Oh, it's
it's
all right.
about like the legality
Mm-hmm.
of animal farming and stuff, animal agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was thinking, I recall your stance still being not ready to make it illegal to eat animals.
Yeah.
Okay. And your reasoning is because of the health, right? Like we don't know if it's completely healthy for everyone.
Um, yeah, something like that. It being so new.
Mhm.
I know, like, so there are supposedly groups of people that have been vegan over the years, but for the most part, there's not any studies of people that have like been vegan since birth, and then there definitely aren't decades and decades or anything like that of studies about people that have been vegan since birth. I don't know how far away we are from having studies that would be enough for me to claim this could be a new legal thing. But yeah, I don't know if I haven't been convinced that we're quite there yet.
Okay. So I think for me there's enough evidence to show that we can be healthy enough
Hmm.
without animal products because like again it comes down to that like well what kind of detrimental effect would be worth continuing all of this over
Mm.
because like if we let's say we could be 80% like at best health like I still think that would warrant making it illegal but like
Mm.
what if we found out through studies that there was a minority of humans that needed to eat meat to be healthy but it was like a minority so it was like maybe like 10% of people or less
Yeah,
would that be enough for you to say we should keep it going or
I would say at very least it's enough to say that we should keep it going for them.
hmm,
But it depends on what you mean by keep it going. I don't think we
yeah,
should keep factory farming going
hmm,
the way it is. But at the same time, I don't know how regulated it should be. But if it was something like how hunting works, and but even if it was like a more regulated hunting where like say instead of like farms that we have now, like so we have factory farms for cows and then we have like free range farms for cows. Imagine if it was more like a fenced in large forest property that cows lived on. And if this was needed for health for like this subset of people you're talking about, then maybe there could be like a vet goes up to a cow and gives him a quick little poke of an injection that essentially puts him to sleep, like you'd put a dying cat to sleep or something like that, and then this the flesh of the cow is used for these people that need it. Now, I would say this is just a random example of what could work in a world where there was a subset of people that needed this for health and we didn't have something like lab grown meat. I'm
right
guessing lab grown meat
right
will cover that issue.
yes you're probably right about that but assuming the lab grown doesn't work
Mm,
um I see like I mean my issue a little bit with that is like let's just say we found out and hypothetically that there was a subset of humans that literally needed some human meat
mm-hmm.
to be healthy. I don't think I don't think anyone would expect well for them we have to farm some humans in order for them like I think in that case it'd be like well it kind of sucks for you but we can't just like start doing this really immoral thing for your health. So I was kind of thinking of that, like at that
Hmm.
as that like a hypothetical, like as
Yeah.
an analogy.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way of looking at it. So, I either challenged myself or somebody else challenged me with the idea of, I think when talking about the idea of predator culling, so like killing a lion to save a zebra,
Oh
people
yeah.
were comparing it to like a serial killer that just wanted to kill other humans. And
Hmm.
I pointed out that like if a lion just wants to kill a zebra for fun, I'd kill that lion. So same thing with a human wanting to kill a human for fun. But if we were out in nature, separate from laws, we weren't in borders and we didn't have laws. If I knew a human was born with the need to eat other humans and they would die without doing it, I don't know if I would intervene. But in a society, I think the most important reason we have a society is for protection. We have this will to live. And so we start a society and we make rules. We say humans can't kill humans, humans can't hurt humans, they can't enslave humans. We have a handful of laws that essentially protect like our negative rights that we give ourselves legally, and I think that is a thing that must take place. Now, any laws that would happen involving other animals that can't be part of our laws. So humans can all agree, I don't kill you, you don't kill me. We all agree to these rules, and we all are willing to say, oh, I wanted to hurt somebody, but I don't want to be hurt, so I'll accept these rules. Animals don't do that, so there's not a mutual benefit involving the animals. So if humans decide to make laws about animals, that would just be based on morals, not on getting a mutual benefit from each other. And so if we have dogs as pets, and so we can have a law saying, okay, you can't hurt this dog. And it's not because the dog won't hurt you if you don't hurt the dog. It's just that we say this dog can feel pain. So if you stab it for fun, you're going to go to jail. And so trying to circle back to the answer, but so yeah, basically, with what I think is the most important reason to have laws, you can't get around that for the idea of like if we find a human that we go, oh my gosh, we have them under a microscope, we can see this human. If they don't consume human flesh, they're gonna die. We don't all of a sudden figure out a way to farm our fellow humans that we all agree on these laws. We'd have to do one of two things that I can think of off the top of my head. We'd have to make lab grown human meat, which I think would be reasonable, or we would have to say, you're going to die if you don't eat human meat. We can't give you human meat, but we can send you off to an area that isn't ran by a society. You can be out in nature, and if you want to go track down some tribes and try your best, go for it.
Yeah.
I I don't know what the options would be, but yeah, I think it's different with
I don't
animals.
I don't know. I don't know. I still think that's reasonable for animals. I think that's reasonable of like, well,
Mm-hmm.
hey, like again, like obviously the lab grown meat is this thing that would be awesome and would kind of rectify stuff like that. But if that wasn't possible, then I suppose, being like, well, hey, we're not going to, farm animals for you, but you can try to go hunt in the wild if you want, maybe, like
Mm-hmm.
what would be that the difference there of like, well, you can go try to hunt down some tribes, or like, well, we don't do that here, like killing animals. So if you want to go outside of society and like hunt animals and eat them, then go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, no, it's tricky. What would the percent have to be for you to change your mind? Like, what if your health, what if we just needed animals to have any kind of reasonable health and we dropped to like 40%?
Any kind of reasonable, jeez. um yeah, no, yeah, I guess you would probably be like, I'd probably be, it's a good question, maybe 25%, maybe if it was above 25%. I don't know, it's really
Interesting.
hard. I like if I'm trying to, yeah, I don't know, if I'm trying not to like put too much emotion into it and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of use logic, like I don't know, like we wouldn't, I don't know, like again, like if there was even some kind of other, I don't know. I still kind of think that the animals and the humans are kind of a equatable enough in my mind that they deserve those negative rights enough. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I know that like they don't have the same moral framework, but that's when we're talking about veganism, that's still not acceptable. They don't have, like moral, they don't have their own morals, so we can kill them. It's like, well, no, not really. That's not how it works. Um, yeah, but then okay, and then I was wondering though also, would you, so right now you're not necessarily in favor of making it illegal, but what if instead of going all the way, if society like tomorrow was just like, okay, you know what, um we're only going to keep, like, for like just say a minority of people who need to eat meat, not for everybody necessarily, we're
Mhm.
only going to keep fish, like fishing legal, like we can farm
Mm.
fish, but we'll stop farming all the other animals. If let's say that people could get what they need from any animal flesh, fish, what do you
Yeah,
think?
I would say that whatever it is would have to cover what we view as um, accepted as I mean, there's so many different ways of looking at what we need and don't need. Like right now, it's very well accepted that humans don't need meth. We don't need to have meth in our body, right? And so
Right.
even the meat eaters think so. So it wouldn't have to come down to every single person would have to agree. Obviously, the people using meth think they need it. Um,
Hmm.
and so I don't know what the consensus would have to look like. But yeah, if I would be curious to see what they would say, but I don't know how much of an argument there is that any I don't know. Cuz yeah. But anyways, I would say that seems somewhat reasonable. I It seems like the what's thought of as the most healthy animal product for humans is probably fish. That seems to be when I hear about people like leaving veganism for health reasons, they'll claim that they've decided they think fish is something that they need. You
Yeah.
get the omega 3 side of it, you get the iodine side of it. It seems like there's a handful of things that you could get from like seaweed and algae and things like that you could get those ways, but you can also get with the fish. Yeah, I wouldn't mind regulations getting tighter and tighter in that sense. Because I don't know if meat eaters probably meat eaters would say that there's something maybe in cow flesh that would be important that you wouldn't get in something like fish. Um, but I don't think there's anything that they would be able to say of why you would need cows and lambs and
Mm,
goats
true.
and all these different
True, true,
things.
true. Yeah, yeah. The similar kinds of meats. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the answers would be, but I think the most important thing would be if we accept that we don't know enough to say for sure that humans can be at optimal health without animals, and with how new veganism is, if we just have something like strict laws, if we just have laws that focus on treatment, every farm has to have cameras going at all times to where the government can see what's going on, and maybe even the public can see what's going on, and which would probably be a big help if the public could just see at all times what's going on. And then if there's just like regulations for how much land you have to have, how much being out in the sun and grass and all this stuff, and essentially it's just like the most free range of free range that can exist.
Yeah,
And then we keep doing our studies, keep getting, showing the emotional side, showing the scientific side,
yeah,
and fighting for those changes. Because I would say clearly the biggest issue right now is there is just billions to trillions of animals being tortured nonstop. If we remove the torturing, there still is a downside, but it's such a smaller downside. So.
I agree. It's because the tough thing too is like in order to make it so that the suffering comes down, then the meat has to there's just no way to not make it a lot less available, because
Mhm.
like at the rate that we're putting it out into supermarkets, it like requires factory farming. So if we got away from
Mhm.
that, it would be, I mean, and this wouldn't be a bad thing, but it would be more limited and way more expensive,
Yeah.
especially if we force them to stop like subsidizing that sort of like arena of agriculture,
Hmm.
which also needs to happen. Because the other thing is like people hate to feel like limited. Like if you try to tell someone, well, hey, if the government tried to say, okay, we're still going to do this, but we're going to make it more humane, but this entails that, let's say, everyone is only allowed to eat meat once a week, let's say,
Hmm.
people would like burn buildings down. Even
Yeah.
that, like, it would be a right, because the other thing that I was thinking that would make, just going back really quickly, tough to where, like, let's say we found out that there was this subset of people that's like 10% that like needed meat to survive. It's like, okay, well, we would do it for them. That, oof, because think of like the reaction of everyone who didn't need it, right? Looking at the
Hmm.
people who did, like, we'd have to make like medical laws for like, oh, you need a prescription to buy and eat meat. That's so like, it's a wild thought, but that
Hmm.
would be really a really rough transition. I can imagine people like freaking out about, oh, my cousin, I don't know, my cousin gets to eat meat and I'm not allowed to anymore. This is unfair. Like there'd be riots. That's just
Yeah.
an interesting thought,
Well,
like the way you'd have
yeah,
to.
I think it just comes down to what we view as like luxuries or not. I mean, it like not everybody has a yacht, and so
True.
you can't afford a yacht. It's not like somebody says like, oh, I'm so pissed that guy gets a yacht and I don't. I mean, some people might feel that way, but it doesn't mean that they deserve a yacht. Not everybody deserves all the different things. I can't find a fresh jackfruit for the life of me. I look everywhere and I don't
Really?
live in the places like an actual full on jackfruit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Do they have
interesting.
those in
Yeah,
Jersey?
we sell them at the place I work.
What? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Not here in Oregon.
Mm,
I do love jackfruit. I eat it dried jackfruit, and every once in a
never
while
tried
I'll
it.
do canned jackfruit. Oh, jackfruit's great,
Really?
but I
Okay.
don't have access to a big one, and some people might not have access to certain kind of meats if they get expensive. But it doesn't mean that you should create acceptable torturous things to make it so more people can have meat. I don't know if that would also mean that you would have to even it out and have it be a medical thing. I think it would just be a thing where it becomes more expensive, so people eat a lot less of it. And if people eat a lot less of it, then we'll have more studies showing if it's healthy. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how it would play out. But I do
Mm.
wanna I'm gonna read a couple comments in here real quick just
Oh
to
yeah, sure, sure,
catch
sure.
up on a few things, and then you can throw out your thoughts on them too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We earlier one of my answers involved the idea of euthanizing cows, and somebody said, "Will the flesh of the cow be safe after euthanizing?" So I guess it within my answer it would be a
Hmm.
thing where um, if if you could do that while keeping it safe, then do that, and then if not, then it would be something like
It'd have to be something else.
hunting cows the way we hunt deers, where you just have this forest full of free roaming cows. The main reason I was giving that example is I'd want the focus to be on professionals not making any suffering happen. So
Hmm.
there's that. Somebody said veganism allows human meat consumption. Why is this a problem? It's kind of like the idea of like so obviously breast milk is fine for babies even though it comes from an animal because it
Hmm.
comes from
Hmm.
the consenting animal. So yes, if veganism is about non-human animals, then eating human flesh is not connected to veganism. That's just its own topic. So that would be a problem in the same sense that anything not related to veganism that's a problem is a problem. It just vegans don't think it's fine for humans to steal from other humans just because there's no animal involved. Veganism is its own thing, and you can have
Yeah,
multiple
yeah, yeah.
things.
It's, I guess technically yes, like that wouldn't be, things involving humans is not related to veganism,
Yeah.
but you'd be, yeah, yeah.
Okay, Randall says that this is a quote of one of us, maybe. We won't farm animals. And then he says, are you saying you would outlaw farmers from farming animals? we won't farm animals. I don't know what the quote's all about, but yeah, I mean, if you outlaw something, you outlaw it. So if you
Yeah.
say it's illegal to have 50 cows in a certain amount of space that's too small for 50, then yeah, you'd outlaw that. And if somebody had 50 in that small space, then that person would get a fine or whatever, and they'd be forced to either expand their amount of space they have or downsize
Mhm.
the amount of cows they have. And then if you broke that all the way down to, for whatever reason, it was illegal to have cows completely, then yes. I'm not claiming that should happen, but it's kind of like if it does, it does.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I mean, yeah, I mean, I would personally like to see it be outlawed, like entirely, really, and just go back to like having, whatever animals are going to survive in the wild. And if like some of our species that we technically have would go extinct, that's just the way it is. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Somebody said vegans don't know anything about nutrition.
Some
Ve-
do.
Some do,
Some
right?
do.
Yeah, that's the thing. Different people have different thoughts on nutrition, which is why
Mhm.
I never like to personally if I talk about nutrition, I usually point out that I've been convinced, and that if I'm
Mm.
talking hypothetically for the future, it would be like a general consensus, like a overwhelming general consensus, because you'll find doctors that will say that carnivore is good. You'll find other ones that say keto's good, other ones that say Mediterranean's good. So we don't have like a complete general consensus. Like, and what I mean by general consensus is not even just the general consensus of us knowing that meth is not good for humans, but something like cigarettes. For a while, people thought it could be healthy to smoke cigarettes, but eventually, we broke that down. We sat down. The scientists looked at it, and now we have to have the Surgeon General's label on there. Um,
Oh,
I,
yeah, I have
s-
a
s-
yeah.
so that might be
Sorry.
something worth doing in the future with meat if we do enough
Yes.
studies that leads us to that. So
Because
yeah.
I'll usually point out things that are more so like confirmed or at least extremely logical, like how like the studies like red meat and processed meat are actually classed as carcinogenic pretty much. So like
Hmm.
I'll point that out because they just are, and I would actually, at least for processed meat, I would personally love for there to be like a warning on every package. I think that would be awesome personally. And
Hmm.
then I'll also usually point out like with dairy because it's just so, I don't know, it just seems to me so obviously logical that there how is there any logical way that humans need the breast milk of another animal? It doesn't make any sense at
Yeah.
all. So I'll point out that, and I'll point out meat being definitely linked to the cancer and to heart disease and stuff. That's
Hmm.
usually what I'll definitely lean into because they can easily find that information for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay, I'm Pickle Twitch, who's also a guy I know named Dillian, says clams question mark, because we were talking about the fish thing. And yeah, no, I
Mm,
think that's a good point that
mm,
you should always try to harm the least amount as possible. So if we were to if bivalves had you covered for everything fish
yeah.
had, then so if you take all of them, oysters, clams,
Yep.
all the different scallops, yeah,
Mm,
then if all those options gave you what you would need from fish in this hypothetical world where you need fish, then yes, that would be the route to go. You should always go for the
yeah.
most humane, and if it covers everything, then you could go completely humane. So I guess it was just a hypothetical, anyways. But let's see. If you eat clams, you're not a vegan. You're a pescatarian. Yeah, that's silly. Now there might be something worth keeping the word vegan when referring to a diet um, separate from the philosophy. So, because some vegans will not eat clams and some will. So you
Yeah.
could say that veganism is just talking about the animal. So in the same sense that some vegans would eat roadkill, or in a more realistic sense. I know a vegan that if somebody's going to throw their food away and it's a burger made with beef, but they're throwing it in the garbage, he'll actually say, "Okay, I'll eat that," and he'll eat it. He won't pay to have it put in demand, but he'll consume it. Now, this is not best for most vegans because most vegans are were addicted to animal products and probably had a hard time getting off them. So it would be bad to do something that'll trigger you to go back to
I
eating meat. But as far as the moral side of it, eating a burger made from a cow is only connected to veganism if you're referring to the demand that's put in. If people are outlawed from eating animals and we're not going to have cattle anymore, and then whatever meat is left, and then a bunch of vegans that don't care about health and their only care is if it's put in demand or not. I could imagine a bunch of vegans going out and just buying all the burgers and eating them up. It's just whatever's left is left, and there won't be any more after that. So the animal, like when you talk about the philosophy of it and the moral side of it, the consuming of animals in my mind, the consuming of animals means nothing.
well,
But yeah, go
okay,
for it.
okay. So for me, I kind of disagree a little bit because I think, I mean, I kind of agree with like maybe like if you eat it, it'll make you want it more. But to me, that's a very small concern. The concern more for me is that I think it makes more of a stop, kitty. I think it makes much more of a statement in either direction if other people see you do that. Like if you're literally, if the vegan is like, oh yeah, no, give me the burger, I'll eat it because I'm not paying for it. Yeah, there's that element of you're not putting it in demand, but anyone else who sees you do that is like, I think that makes a really big difference on like how they're going to view like, oh wow, you don't really have this like hard ethical stance against animal cruelty. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that would make a big, I wouldn't personally want anyone to, and I don't think I would do that anyway, but even if I was, I think I would personally want to make sure no one saw me do it. I think it's much better for people to see you refuse even when maybe it has been paid for already. It's just like no, I'm not to me it's like, and again I'm going to bring humans into it, but it's like if someone handed you something and said this is human meat, I mean listen, they're already dead, there's really no market for it, so you should be fine eating it. And it's just like
Hmm.
no, I'm still not going to because I have a moral issue with eating humans in the first place. That's
Yeah.
what I'm coming.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think you're right. I think it would be best not to do it in front of others unless it's people that you know very well and you've had conversations with about the philosophical moral side of it. But yeah, I think it's important to make sure your stance is well known by the people that are going to be seeing you do this thing. So the cases where it might be reasonable, a guy I know named Jerem, he said like if he orders something from like Uber Eats or something and it shows up and it was made wrong and it has like animal products on it or something, that because he can't just like turn around and say, "Oh, this was made wrong," and have it fixed. He'll just go ahead and eat it. A case like that, I can see that being again not best, but reasonable to do. And so similar to that, if you have something that's going to be thrown away and nobody's watching, then it's probably it's obviously morally fine. But I agree with you that if there's if you got a group of people and you're wanting some of these people to know that you have this ethical standard and
Right.
then you're
Yeah,
going to be
yeah,
putting the flesh of an animal in your mouth, you need to at least make sure they fully understand why you're
oh
doing
yeah.
that. But
No,
I
I
don't recommend it to pretty much anybody.
yeah, I
But
wouldn't.
yeah,
I
but
wouldn't
yeah,
either.
you make a good point there. Um, Randall brought up something about because I mentioned like the trillions of animals tortured, and he brought up the example of insects, birds, and rodents when it comes to crop deaths, and that's the thing. I think people really think well. A lot of vegans do try to ignore crop deaths, but I think another thing worth thinking about is if humans ate insects instead of eating like cows and chickens and stuff like that. And then vegans stopped eating insects and they only ate what was in the crops. And then if to get those crops you had to kill cows and chickens and all these other things. I think once the vegans found that out, they'd go, "Oh my gosh, okay, it's actually better to eat insects than to be killing these mammals," and so they would be won over. So it's not that they're just trying to ignore crop deaths. It is a very important distinction to recognize that killing of insects is nothing like killing of mammals. Now, I think it's an issue. It's a thing we should worry about, and we should maybe get away from using pesticides, insecticides, rodenticides, and all these things. But it's just not the same.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same. I agree. I want to like spray outside my house for ticks, and even like, if ants are getting in, I will
Hmm.
spray for those. I
Yeah.
admit I feel a little bad.
Hmm.
I really do feel bad killing like insects if I have to, but um you know it's definitely not the same. It's definitely
Yeah.
not the same.
Yeah, I mean, you have to do what you have to do. So
Yeah.
if insects
'Cause that's
are
self-defense. It's like
attacking your body, then
self-defense.
yeah,
Yeah.
you save yourself
Mhm.
from that. If they're eating your food, if they're ruining your food,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta do what you gotta do, and
Yeah,
hopefully
because
we'll get better at doing it, figure out better ways. But yeah.
Yeah, because again, like I recall, Neil deGrasse Tyson with his little spiel about like, oh well, just building your house kills animals, and it's like, okay,
Hmm.
well, listen, like, what does practicable mean? Like, we have
Yeah.
to live, but the thing is, like, we should only go so far as is again like necessary and practicable. Again, I know I've
Hmm.
mentioned this before, but as an example, like having humongous mansions and like, I need a 2-acre yard or something, and I'm not even going to do
Hmm.
anything with it. I just need to like play golf or something. I think that is harmful. I would, say we should get away from things like that too, because then, yeah, maybe you are killing animals, even though maybe there are insects and mice or birds or whatever, but it's still unnecessary. It's just like,
Hmm.
so you can have a big yard. Like, I don't see the point. Like, so you can have a $2 million home. No, I don't think so. And I
Yeah.
know I'm not a millionaire, so I'm a little biased in that sense, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's tricky. It's hard to know where the cutoffs are, but yeah, it's
it's hard
tricky.
to know the cutoff, but I think it's easy to say, okay, we don't actually need to mow down all of this space for a $2 million home and yard. That's not
Hmm.
that's not even a gray area to me. That's like obvious. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's tough. Yeah, it'd be interesting for every human to announce where their cutoffs are for how much land one should have
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. Veganism Debunked says just tell people they can't drink alcohol, and so I think they're comparing kind of like you were saying that it'd be like prohibition. People would go nuts and want to they would just they'd go crazy and they would attack to try to get their
Yes.
animals. But the difference here is that stopping people from alcohol, which I'm not a fan of alcohol. I think there's a lot of issues with alcohol, but alcohol existing is not harming anything. And so
Yeah.
people can go nuts about something becoming illegal with anything.
Right.
That
Yeah.
could be an
Yeah.
argument for why we shouldn't have ended slavery or something.
Right.
Oh,
No,
you're going
yeah,
to take away the right to own
yes,
slaves? So,
there were definitely probably like riots and people in an uproar over ending slavery. That has
hmm.
nothing to do with whether we should have ended it at all. Nothing.
Yeah, yep. VL now says BS red meat is not a carcinogen. Absolute lies. Unprocessed beef is not proven carcinogen. Okay, okay, so he might be pointing out that red meat itself is not classified as a carcinogen. It's just when they're processed. That could be. It's important to get the exact details straight, which is usually why I don't get too far in to nutrition. I know a lot about nutrition, but I never want to make the claims because I find sources where I feel comfortable with somebody reading the sources and analyzing it, and I'm picky about who I listen to, and then those
Yeah.
sources are there if I want to read them. I personally am willing to admit that I have not become trained on reading studies and understanding them well enough to make 100% claims. But yeah, there's probably something to that where there are different classes of carcinogens, and those classes are labeled on certain types of
Mhm.
meats.
Yeah.
You
When,
so yeah.
I when you look it up, I mean, I'm also picky with who I listen to. But when you look it up, it's that processed meat is a class 1 carcinogen and red meat is class 2. So
Okay.
probable. So that class 2 means it's probable to cause cancer. Class 1 is that it does. Like it pretty much does. Like
Mm.
cigarettes are class 1. Um, so, but I mean, I won't go too far into it either.
Hmm.
Obviously, I'm also not like an actual scientist, so
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
leave it there. But I do trust the major science on
Hmm.
the red meat and processed meat thing. So
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think it's definitely reasonable to yeah, it's good to keep looking into it, and to for them to keep studying it and finding out what's going on with it. Okay, so I did want to ask you though. So we haven't talked in a while,
yeah.
and okay, so I started this channel about 3.5 months ago. You're one of the first comments I remember on this channel, and so at that time you had moral thoughts leaning towards veganism, but you were not vegan, and
Mhm.
then maybe a couple weeks later you started cutting certain things out. After our first talk, I had set up that debate where it was going to be you and a vegan debating ideas about veganism, and then by the time you showed up, you were actually vegan.
Yeah.
Couple weeks later, I think maybe you started eating fish again. So where are
It
you at
wasn't
now?
Yeah, so it wasn't that I started eating fish again, it was that I hadn't 100% decided whether to cut it out or not.
Okay.
So basically where I'm at now, like I still have, and this is from before. This was from like several months ago. I bought some mussels. They're in my freezer right now, and
Hmm.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know if I want to eat them. I'm pretty much I so yeah, so I call myself vegan.
Hmm.
I the only exception right now that I make, like literally the only exception is and I don't know is me and my boyfriend have one sushi place that we like to go
Hmm.
to, and so far, the last time we went, which was last month, I did have the regular fish sushi. That's
Hmm.
literally the only thing I'm compromising on. And
Hmm.
I don't know if I will again because I know you can get vegetable sushi, like it is a thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I have to, I don't know, I have to see what I do the next time we go.
Hmm.
But other than that, that's literally it. And
Okay, cool.
yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
literally it.
No, you're
I
definitely a
consider
vegan.
myself vegan. Yeah.
But out of curiosity, not out of wanting to rank your veganness or anything, but just
Oh,
out of
yeah.
curiosity, with the sushi, do you like the taste of the way the fish is prepared for sushi, or are you leaning towards thinking there's some nutrients in there that you're wanting, or
At this point, it is the taste.
okay.
I admit that. I don't really believe. I mean, again, unless some studies come out or something that say like, okay, no, you really actually need to have fish in your diet, like you need it. I'm
Hmm.
not really convinced. I think I might in my mind, I'm convinced that I can be healthy without any animal products at all. If
Hmm.
that changes in the future, it changes in the future. But for now, why would I not? Like, I feel good. I'm going to go get like a checkup at the doctor soon, as I do that once a year. I'm expecting to be healthier than I
Hmm.
was before because before the last year, my cholesterol was getting high. Like I'd never had high cholesterol, but I had done the keto low carb thing and my cholesterol was going up. My blood pressure went up a little bit. So
Hmm.
I'm hoping that when I go this summer, that I'll be better. Um,
Hmm.
that my cholesterol will come down. But yeah, no, I'm gonna be honest, it's the taste, and that really is kind of hypocritical of me.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, I've been there. I mean, you've probably heard me say before, like when I first went vegan when I was about 20, and I'm 37 now. When I was 20, I went vegan, and then I was vegan for like over a year, but I missed the taste so bad that I started eating meat again. And I only did it because like I couldn't not. Like I wanted those dopamine hits. I had that craving, and I still viewed it as morally wrong, and I did it. It doesn't make it acceptable, but I think it is interesting and good to be able to know like
yeah,
that
and
you still feel the moral thing. You're not pushing
yeah,
the moral thing away.
yeah.
You just have that human error
Yeah,
of
it
addiction and
doesn't. I
cravings.
I definitely don't think like I'm not of the one to be like, oh, that made you not vegan. Like that doesn't make sense
Hmm.
to me. It's like you, I don't know, like you wouldn't call, like you literally don't call someone who like I don't know, like a Christian, like if someone's a Christian and they do like they sin once in a while because they fall into it or whatever. It's like, oh, well,
Hmm.
you're not a Christian now because you
Yeah.
sinned once, like you whatever it is, like, oh, you told a lie once, you're not a Christian anymore, like that's
Hmm.
just not how it
In fact,
works.
it'd kind of be the opposite. Like if somebody said like, "Oh, I had sex before marriage. I'm not a Christian anymore." Their whole family would be like, "No, you are. Like you
Yeah,
God still loves you.
yeah,
You
yeah,
are,
yeah. It was just a mistake.
Where
Yeah,
vegans it's
yeah.
the opposite. It's the second you do
Yes.
something, it's
It's
like,
like,
"You
yes.
carnist, get out of
Yeah,
our
like they're
group."
pushing you away. Oh, I
Yeah.
completely 100% agree. And I think that definitely vegans should swap and be like, no, you know what? You made a mistake. It's okay. You'll just come back to the fold, do your
Hmm.
best. I really don't see why that shouldn't be the way that we treat each other. It
Yeah.
really should be like, hey, encouragement to do your best. I mean, I can understand maybe if like someone's calling themselves a vegan, but they literally plan to eat a steak once every week. Like it's a plan. Like it's like, yeah, I just do
Hmm.
this every week because I'm planned to. That's a little different. I guess I
Hmm.
don't think I would call that person a vegan then, but
Yeah, yeah. Well,
because
it'd make me wonder what their thought process is, because if they still are feeling
true.
it morally, I would just like, yeah, no, it'd just be interesting. But yeah, I mean, the best we can do is trying to do our best. Like
Mhm.
we're all, I
Yeah.
mean, based on how our brains are working, our brains will tell us like we want to do the right thing, we want to do the moral thing, and we try our best. And there's only so much you can do. You only have so
Yeah.
much money to donate to causes. You only have so much time to go help in
That's true.
different cases. You only have so much ability to only take up so much land as far as where you
Mhm.
live. I try my best with a lot of different things. I try not to buy too many new things. Clothes, I just wear the same clothes over and over. I don't have to buy new clothes. If I do, I just accept hand me downs or go thrift
Mhm.
shopping. And same thing with I try not to like use plastics and all this stuff, just to err on the side of caution. Again, like
Mhm.
I don't know all the studies. I don't know who's right or wrong about recycling and all this stuff, but I'm just like I don't need to do this thing. So if I hear that it might be bad for something, I can just go, okay. I mean, because my favorite things to do anyways are like hiking and spending time with family, and so I don't need to waste money on things that are just going to fill the landfills. So, but anyways, there's no exact approach to doing it. Somebody could try to not like purchase too many things because they don't want to cause these issues in the world. But then you could be at the grocery store and see them buying a bag of carrots that's wrapped in plastic, and you could judge them
Mhm.
if you want. You could be like, "You're not truly a zero waster,"
I know you're right.
or or you can just let everybody try to do their best and
Right.
encourage good conversations.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's like it's hard for anyone to be 100% anything, really. I think it's unrealistic to expect anyone to be 100%. I mean, I mean, there are certain things maybe like for example, maybe if you're married to someone, you would expect them to be 100% faithful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I almost feel like I kind of contradicted myself just now like
No, it's good. It's conversations are
But
great because like you just think
yes,
of things as you're
you
going.
do.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
it
true.
depends on what it is and how bad it is. Like you
Hmm.
want to do your best, but it's not like you can go kill somebody and say, "Oh, like it was just an accident."
Yeah.
Like they
Maybe
pissed me off a
100%. I'm
lot.
not
Like
murdering people.
so yeah, you should be 100% the more extreme it is,
Yeah.
and and things become complicated. And I think killing animals to eat them is pretty extreme, which is why I'm pretty
Yeah.
100% there. But I get the idea that somebody that if they've spent their entire lives eating this thing and they're kind of addicted to it,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
if
I,
they
I
yeah.
I can't tell you like I had a friend I used to be best friends with, and so we're not friends anymore. But um I like she would always talk about cheese. Always talk about how cheese was like her religion, and
Hmm.
like she can't imagine ever not eating cheese, and it was just. I mean, I kind of used to be the same, but she was like to an extreme, just like cheese all the time, every day,
Hmm.
like literally like worshiping cheese. Which I get because
Gotcha.
now, I mean, you kind of can see the people talk about the was it the casomorphins or something in cheese that are
Hmm.
like slightly addictive. So I guess
Yeah, yeah.
I can
It's the
see that
same
now.
it's the same property, I believe, as what is in heroin.
Yeah. Oh
It's like
yes.
the exact same thing that triggers the brain. I mean, obviously they don't take dairy to make the heroin, but it's the same like maybe chemical or
I think it's
element.
yeah. I think it's
Again,
like
I'm not a
similar enough.
scientist either.
I think it's similar enough to the brain that it recognizes it a little bit. This, but it's a lot less strong. Like the strength is way less. That's
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
heard anyway.
Yeah, it's something like that for sure. Yeah, no, food addiction is real.
Oh,
It's
it
it's
is.
it's wild.
Yeah.
I gotta hop off here in a sec. But this has been a
Okay.
great talk. And I posted in my community section a 40-minute documentary I found on the
Okay.
origins of veganism,
Ooh.
and you got to go watch it. And everybody listening to this, go watch it. It's very fascinating. It kind of focuses on what we're talking about how like militant vegans will be kind of wild, and it shows veganism through the years and how it's changed. And essentially, there's just like before I watched it, I just was aware that in 1944, Donald Watson, who left the Vegetarian Society to form the Vegan Society, coined the term veganism, although I believe his wife came up with the name of it. He just took the credit. Um,
Mm. Oh
but
wow.
uh,
Of
but
course, yeah.
but no, they kind of all worked on it
Yeah.
together. But he's just thought
Yeah.
of as the founder of it. And from my understanding was that he founded it but didn't have many thoughts on it, and then this guy named Leslie Cross came around a couple years later and basically had all. Oh, is that the boyfriend, the pig
Yes,
owner?
that's the boyfriend. Yeah, no, he's
Hello.
Hello, boyfriend. But yeah, so this guy Leslie Cross came in and like had all these essentially what we think of as the moral reasons for veganism, and that's all I had ever heard. And a lot of people, a lot of vegans look down on Donald Watson and think highly of Leslie Cross. But then this documentary like unfolds this whole thing where Donald Watson
Ooh,
had this like great definition and these good ideas, and then Leslie Cross kind of came in and convinced a bunch of people to kick Donald Watson out. And anyways,
wow.
a bunch of 1940s vegan drama, but it's very informative,
Yeah,
very good stuff. So anyways, I recommend checking it out.
I
Um,
will.
but yeah, I got to get to a few things. But yeah, it's good talking, and
Yeah, you too.
yeah.
I don't know if you have any like stories of reactions you had of from like people in person about veganism. I have at least one that maybe I'll say
Mm.
next time. Maybe I'll have more by then.
Yeah. Well, I got a
But
sec if you want to share what happened.
I mean, it's not a huge thing. It's just it was I started wearing these two pins at work
Mm-hmm.
that like related to veganism, and
Mm.
that's literally all I was doing. These pins were just there, and someone else next to me was like, "Oh yeah, what does that say? What does the pin say?" And I said it, and I think it was the one that says "flesh foods or death foods."
Oh.
And some cashier who was nearby came out of the blue to like, yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna keep eating my meat. Like I need my meat. I'm an omnivore. But it was like completely unsolicited, just
Mm-hmm.
came out of nowhere, like attacking. Like that was all because like I was working, so I kept walking, but
Yeah.
I was like annoyed. I was like, I didn't even talk to you. And
Yeah.
it proved to me like, yeah, like people get really defensive, like so
Mm-hmm.
automatically when veganism's even brought up, like you're not even being spoken to and you're just like jumping in. Like, first of all, I kind of wish I'd been able to start coming back because I've been like, your meat. All right, you want to talk about that? We can start there. Is it really your meat? Is it your body? Like I would have.
Yeah.
It was at work, so that wouldn't have been good. But
Yeah. Well, I find it best to not engage with extreme people like that anyways. Like if they're just coming from emotion and just yelling out some
yeah,
things. Because I think really the problem there is nobody wants to think of themselves as a bad guy. And if
yeah,
they hear somebody's vegan, even if the vegan person isn't challenging them, just a
right,
vegan's existence, they think, oh, that person thinks this is wrong and I do this. So I'm bad
right,
if I do this.
yeah,
And I guess I get it, but the problem is too many humans think with their intuition. They get
mm,
this idea in their head and then they jump to it. And I don't know what the right answer is. I definitely I don't mind debating people if they want to debate like a person
oh
like
yeah,
that.
me
But clearly
too.
that person is
Mhm.
not wanting to sit down and have a conversation
Yeah, yeah,
and you could agree to disagree and they could be like, okay, this is why I think it's fine to eat meat, and you could say this is why I don't. um but yeah, it's weird to see people like that in real life though. I feel like the internet's
yes.
full of that. People
In
just
real life, yes, in real life. That's really my point was that it just kind of shocked me coming
yeah.
from my work. And I know this person not super well, but I talk to
Hmm.
them once in a while, so we're friendly. And it just kind of came out of the blue to me. So I was like, oh, okay. But
Yeah.
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 And
Yeah, people are
also
wild.
my cousin rolled her eyes at me at was it was like my uncle had like a picnic for it was Memorial Day or whatever the last one was.
Hmm.
And I literally all I did was like I brought my own like bean burger.
Oh, gotcha.
And yeah, she kind of like rolled her eyes. She didn't say anything, but I saw it. I saw it. I'm just like, oh
Yeah.
geez. Like, and
Oh man.
I'm trying not to think too much about it because I'm like, is this what I'm setting up my life to be? Like, just to be surrounded by people like looking down on me, or like not looking down on me, but look, I don't know, like I don't know, I guess just yeah, just like being defensive and like
Yeah,
I don't
there
know,
will be some of it.
yeah,
As time goes by, you'll probably just make more and more friends that are vegan, and then you'll be around
hopefully.
that more.
I'm working on my
Um,
best friend right now.
yeah. Oh, nice. But yeah, as times change, it's kind of wild to see the differences. Like I remember about like 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I've always been anti-circumcision. But like 10 or 15
Yes,
years
right.
ago, it was like 70% of people in the US would like circumcise new babies. And now it's like maybe 40%. Like the
Really?
tides have turned. Yeah, yeah. It's
Oh wow, I'm surprised. I had no idea.
yeah, the majority are against it. And I actually see
Wow.
now, like, because I watch a lot of political things, and it used to be something where maybe more right-leaning people were pro circumcision, where left leaning would be anti. But now, almost every time I hear it brought up on like conservative YouTube channels and stuff, they're all against it. And so, yeah, so it's one of those things where you might feel like you're in a certain area, but then as the tide shifts, it's kind of cool to know that you were doing the right thing earlier
Yeah,
on,
like ahead of it. Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. I agree with that.
Um,
Wow, that's really good to know though, because I'm also against circumcision. So that's
yeah,
very
yeah.
interesting. I'm gonna have to look that up a little bit.
Yeah, you
I
should
had no
just do a
idea.
Google search like
Yeah.
percentage of babies circumcised in the US. And
Wow.
it's definitely
Mm.
the higher percentage are not circumcised now as far as new babies being born.
Wow.
Yeah, which is really
Okay.
cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then yeah, yeah, and then also you're probably way too young to remember how old were you in 2013?
Oh, 2013?
So 10
I think I
years
was like
ago.
21. I think I was like 21. I'm 30, so
Oh, you are 30. I was thinking you
yeah.
were like 21, 22 now. Okay.
No,
So you're
yeah,
30.
no.
Okay. So
Yeah.
but like so in 2013 when gay marriage passed, like A couple
I
years before
remember.
that,
Yeah.
everybody was anti-gay, and then as soon as that
Mm,
passed, even every Christian I knew, all of a sudden, even the Christians were like, oh, "Okay, yeah, no, gay people are great."
not my brand.
Oh, not your
Not,
brand.
no, I remember. Listen. I remember the day it happened. I was driving to work. I had the radio on, and I heard it announced, and I thought it was disgusting because back then I was
Mm.
still super homophobic.
Oh,
I
were you
wasn't
at
out. Oh
21?
yes, I wasn't out
Okay.
yet. I didn't get out until I was 24. I
Oh,
literally
okay.
have I literally have a tattoo with the year that I got out, because
Oh, wild.
it was that significant of a life shift, and like my whole church was just like, like, oh, God's gonna judge, like this is horrible, like, and I was with them. I was with them because I was indoctrinated,
Hmm.
um, and then I felt guilty about how homophobic I was for like most of my life at that point when I got
Mm-hmm.
out. But yeah, I was definitely at that time. It's kind of crazy because I voted for Trump back then
Hmm.
too, and I probably, like, if I went back, I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't again, but
Hmm.
I was very conservative when that happened in 2013.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. No, my past with all that's a bit wild as well. I guess I stayed pretty religious till I was about 19. So, because I
Mm.
remember when what was it? So, something happened around the time I was 19. I remember making some claim about how I view being gay as a sin, and but that I don't judge people or something like that. And I
Right.
remember, like, now and over the years when I think back to
Oh,
that, I just feel
cringe.
so, yeah, right? I feel so
Yeah.
horrible.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
it's
I
weird
said the
because
same thing.
I know a lot of religious people that I think are great. I don't mind people being religious. I'm just glad that I got out of what I was kind of brainwashed, even if I wasn't
Mhm.
intentionally brainwashed. Like, my mom's great. I love my mom. She's just religious, so she brought me up religious. So I don't know how to attribute the brainwashing to a person or a group, but I definitely kids' brains soak things up and believe
Oh,
things with
yeah.
the people closest to them, and
Mhm.
so anyway, so yes, it's pretty wild getting out of that kind of thing. But I think as things change, it seems like a lot of people just go with the flow. So as soon, at least in my
Yeah.
area, even the
True.
Christians, when gay marriage went through, everybody all of a sudden is accepting of gay people, and then same thing with a lot of different topics. Veganism's going to be a while. I think it's going to be a while before everybody switches over.
Yeah.
But in my mind, it's kind of like you just got to do the right thing. Like, if even if
Yeah.
you knew for the rest of your life, people are going to still eat meat, all these animals were going to die, and your changes aren't going to change other people, I still view it as each individual meal. If I just were to eat a piece of beef, like, that is me
Yeah.
sentencing an animal to death.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a
And
real, like
yeah.
an actual real, and what I like to do too is say, okay, put myself back in like slavery times. Like,
Hmm.
would it be okay to enslave someone because I was allowed to and everyone else did? No,
Yeah.
looking back like that, like any sane normal person today, if you ask them
Hmm.
that same question of, well, put yourself back in slavery times, could you see yourself like just going with the flow, or would you want to be that person who it
Hmm.
stands out from everyone else and refuses to
Yeah.
participate? You know that they would say I would refuse to participate,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
know that that's where we are right now with veganism.
Yeah, well, it comes down to that whole thing of people don't wanting to feel like bad, not wanting to feel like bad guys. They look back; they're not currently owning slaves, so they can look back at slavery as bad.
Mm-hmm.
But same thing now; they're eating meat. But if they stopped eating meat, when what is it? Lab grown meat comes into existence. As soon as everybody starts eating that, and then they don't eat meat anymore, they're gonna look back and go, "Oh, that was horrible. I can't believe people used to do that," even though they did it themselves. But it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna
Mm-hmm.
take that to get them to switch over. But if you got people to, if you took 1,000 meat eaters and trapped them on an island and gave them all the greatest vegan food in the world and made them go a year being vegan and then brought them back and be like, "Oh yeah, we trapped you here, but you're free now," and they can't know that you did it for vegan reasons. You were just trapped. They were trapped for other reasons. I don't think they'd go back to eating meat. They
You
would
don't
look
think
at it and no, well, because they aren't currently doing it. So if right
so?
when they
Mhm.
got back, you showed them factory farming stuff, like a maybe a Dominion video or something, and then they see this horrible thing, they'll go like, "Oh, well, I haven't been eating meat, so I'm not doing that. I can't believe other people are doing it." And then they won't go back to doing it. I think what holds people back is two things: vegan assholes, so the vegans
Yeah.
making it all look crazy, and
Yeah.
then the fact that they don't want to think of themselves as bad guys. But if they're not doing it, if they're not doing the actual act, and they're viewing others, it'll be like the slavery thing where I'm guessing if you asked anybody today, probably every single person would say they wouldn't own slaves. But if
Mhm.
people had the money for it, I'm guessing at least 50% of people that are alive today would own slaves.
Oh, back
if you put,
then.
yeah, if you put them back then when, like if they were raised in a family that owned slaves, and then when they were moving, if they grew up and got married and were moving into their own house, they would just continue the tradition. But
Mm,
as soon as
yeah.
they're removed from it and they can look at others, they can go, "You're a bad guy." But they're not gonna look at themselves and go, "You're being a bad guy."
I personally think it would be like 50-50. I don't have as much
Mm-hmm.
confidence as you.
Mm-hmm.
I think like 50% of people actually might, yeah, like they wouldn't go back to it. I
Mm-hmm.
really I really think like half of them would go straight.
Mm.
I think there'd be a lot of them like I can't wait to have my first hamburger after,
Yeah,
after this
maybe.
whole year of hell, especially if you don't tell them. I don't know,
Yeah.
especially if you don't tell them because like their mindset is not at all in that like I don't know. I think like half of them would go straight back to it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, it might be. Well, and part of it will be, if they got over their addiction, because that's why I think the super meat will affect it, the lab grown meat. Yeah, yeah, it'll be
Mhm.
interesting. That it's actually when I met my wife, she already had three kids before I met her, and so the youngest out of those three, he was four then, but when he was seven, because he would go to his dad's house, he'd be with us half the time, and at his dad's house half the time, and the other two older kids had gone vegan because various different reasons. But the 7-year-old wasn't vegan because he could only be vegan at our house because we had only vegan food at our house.
Oh,
But when
yeah.
he was at his dad's, he ate meat. But I made a deal with him. I said, if you can go 1 year being vegan, no matter where you're at, if you're at a friend's house, at your dad's house, whatever, I'll give you $300. And
Wow.
and he did
Wow.
it. He went vegan for the whole year and got the $300. But a mixture of his two older siblings being vegan and then having to be vegan at our house, and then but going that full year, he couldn't go back. Like when he would think about
Yeah,
the
yeah, I
eating
can see.
animals.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
yeah.
his dad. So when he goes to his dad's house, his dad eats meat. But because he went the whole year, he didn't do it. Now that example doesn't work with everybody because who knows what would happen with
Yeah,
adults.
that's true.
But something like that actually happened. I convinced 10 people I knew to do a project. I was filming a documentary where I got 10 random people that I knew to go 1 month without eating, basically eating only vegan food for 1 month. And
Ah, yes.
and every week they would come in, they'd meet up at my house, and I'd film interviews with each of them asking like how they felt after the first week, after the
Oh,
second
that's so
week.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I never ended up finishing that project and putting it out, but three of the 10 vegans,
Mhm.
or sorry, three of the 10 non-vegans that did that project stayed vegan, and they're still vegan to
Yeah.
this day, and it's been like 10 years now,
Yeah.
and the rest of them are not.
Yeah, I think knowing that you're doing it for veganism is like the challenges about veganism, I think is what helps a lot though. Like with your
Probably, yeah.
scenario with the island, the people on the island, I think if they don't know, that's going to be a big detriment. But if you tell them, well, no, okay, we're feeding you vegan food, then they have it in their mind that okay, I'm eating vegan food. So then when they, oh, well, I already
Mm.
like vegan food, but
Okay, okay,
anyway,
maybe.
I do have to go as well.
Oh,
I
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
head out, but it was
All
a
right.
good talk. We'll do it again.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, take care.
Yep, you too.
Bye. All right. I was going to respond to a couple more comments in here now that Wendy has left. Let's see. All right. I see Lewis showed up. Lewis, you always show up right at the end. Okay. Hey, Lewis. Daniel Barber. VL now says how the F is hunting a cult if every human group in prehistory relied on it to supplement their diet. How is it a cult? Yeah, I wouldn't think of it as a cult. That must be something from a conversation in here. Just because people have done it throughout history, I don't think it makes it necessarily good. But I also wouldn't call it a cult. But I mean, throughout history, most of how most animals naturally act would look something like rape. And just because humans might have done it throughout history doesn't mean they should continue to do it. We can recognize what is harmful. I think when we view morals comes down to this idea of pleasure and suffering. I mean, it must, right? So if you're thinking of what's right and wrong, you can't do something wrong to a rock. A rock isn't sentient; it can't feel anything. Something that's sentient can feel. It can feel pleasure and pain. Its experiences can lead to their pleasure and pain. So it's not just physical actions that involve pleasure and pain, but moral actions can only happen in those cases. So morals only affect sentient beings. And so just because something has happened throughout the years doesn't mean that we can't recognize an issue. Now, let's say, for example, that we needed humans needed to eat meat to exist. We could still recognize an issue. We can still recognize, like, let's say to kill an animal, it had to suffer a little bit. Let's say it suffered for like 20 seconds before it died. If we needed to do that and we did that, we could still recognize we need to do this and we're justifying it. This is fine. But we're going to do it because we need to do it. There's nothing wrong with recognizing the moral issue, recognizing that there's some pain caused. So that is that's worth pointing out. And then I was going to respond? Oh yeah, I was going to respond to Jerem. Jerem said something in here. Let me go to it real quick. He might not see this, so I might have to respond separately anyways. But so I put up that Donald Watson, his original definition for veganism was if you eat a vegan diet, then you're a vegan. And then Jerem said, if you're at a restaurant and you ask for vegan options, the waiter knows exactly what you mean. If someone asks what your diet is, vegan is pretty well known. Well understood. Words can have multiple meanings depending on the context. It's both a philosophy and a diet, and those things can change depending on the context. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think most vegans view it as a combination of both. To be a vegan, you have to have the actions of consuming the diet, but it's not just a diet, it's a philosophy too. And so you have to agree with the philosophy and have the actions. I don't agree. I mean, I think the best outcome is somebody to do the actions that follow the philosophy. That's the best outcome. But I would still I think it might be best to have a meaning of veganism as a philosophy. Just be the philosophy. It is what it is. It's a philosophy. It's ideas. It's ways of that one could live, and then that is the example of the philosophy. And then separate, you have the diet. Now it becomes complicated because the philosophy could involve the details of, like, say, why bivalves are fine to eat even though they're animals. So the diet, it might be better off to have it include all animals, including bivalves. But the philosophy could detail why it doesn't matter. The philosophy could point out that you don't eat animals because you're putting them in demand. Eating an animal means nothing. It's not immoral to eat an animal. But if you pay for that animal, then you're telling somebody, hey, you should keep killing these animals. So that's what's wrong. So that's where the philosophy comes in. So yeah, anyways, it's complicated, and hopefully that kind of answered. I guess it wasn't even a question. It was just a reaction. Daniel said, I was saying meaning a cult too. Um, Meat eating is a cult too. Oh, I see. Because some people call veganism a cult, so you're saying meat eating is a cult. Yeah, I don't think that's a good way to word things. But yes, if somebody's calling veganism a cult, you might as well call meat eating a cult. But I don't think I would consider either a cult, depending on what one means by cult. I think it's just people not wanting to think of themselves as wrong, doing something that they have grown up doing and that they are convinced is fine to do, and they don't want to think of it as a bad thing. But cult's a shorter way to say that for sure. Right and wrong are always in virtue of some goal, I think. Right and wrong. Yeah, no, I think that's right. Yeah, I agree with you. Morality might better expressed as aligned with or against the insert. Let's see. The interests of sentient individuals, irrespective of whether they can suffer. Irrespective of. Ooh, Is there an element to sentience that would not include the element to suffer? Like, aside from somebody's wires being crossed, making it to where they cannot suffer. Well, and even then, though, if you cannot suffer, would it be that you could experience pleasure and then nothingness, but you can't suffer, and then you can experience things? I don't know if experiencing things without the ability of suffering. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to ponder that. I'd have to ponder of what that means. Okay, you said yes, so yes is referring to that idea. Um, yeah, so I view the scale of pleasure and suffering, or pleasure and pain at least, or at least pleasure and displeasure. It's one big scale. So the idea of saying that the back half of that scale just doesn't exist, then you have pleasure all the way down to not displeasure. Um, I guess I would still view that the same. If you can experience pleasure, then that's factored in. I'm gonna ponder that though. I don't know if I've ever thought of that element. That's very interesting. Okay, I'm gonna hop off here. Soon, hopefully, either today or tomorrow. Probably not today, but hopefully. I'm gonna do a video reaction to the most recent Garland Farms live stream because whew, it was about me and it was very inaccurate. But anyways, I'm glad to see you all in here. It's good talking, Daniel. It's been great. Yeah, Daniel Lewis. I've had you guys on here from the beginning of this channel, so it's great that you guys always pop in here. I'm Pickle Twitch. That's Dillian from Bulgaria, I believe. Dillian, I want to get you in here to chat again soon, so let's set something up. Yeah, you should actually, Dillian, you should email me. Emails in the about section of my channel. Shoot me an email. I would like to have a chat where we can break down some ideas of your thoughts on my thoughts. Um, Drama is good for views. Drama is good for views. I'm not in this. I'm not into YouTube for drama. So I guess if Garland wants to have drama for views, that's whatever. He can do that. I'm in it for conversations, for talking about ideas, and yeah, I just like part of me doesn't even want to do thumbnails anymore for my videos. I just want to have whatever image from the conversations that show up. I think there are a great important videos that are made just of like short videos made to express some idea. But for me, my only interest is having conversations with real people about real ideas. Various different people, some vegans with different ideas, non-vegans with different ideas, even some debates here and there, as long as it's the ideas for a productive outcome. So yeah, having drama the way that Garland seems to like to do, where he'll talk to me and he'll be nice and friendly. But then when he goes to post on his chat stuff, he'll like say the most extreme lies. He'll make up wild straw man arguments that, yeah, it must just be for the drama and whatnot. But anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling about that. But I would like to respond to his video just to express my thoughts whenever he interjects some idea that is not my true thought. So I'm gonna do that soon. And yeah, you guys take care. We'll talk soon.